Welcome back to HOA Stories. In this video, a homeowner association built an entire HOA neighborhood on my land, unaware that I'm the owner of the property. This backfired. Hey everybody, I'm a little bit worried about an HOA near me, and I'm looking for some advice, a little backstory about me to get things started. I'm a 42-year-old woman living in South Africa. I come from a generation of farmers. I'm currently the third generation owning this farmland and run the entire 200 acres of it by myself. Once my father died and it was passed on to me, things started out a little bit difficult. I knew how to take care of a farm, but running it and taking over the things my father used to do was where it became a little bit tricky for me. My dad had hired a lot of help because 200 acres is impossible for one person to cover and do everything without things falling apart. I was able to keep the staff who already knew how to help with crops and animals, so that made life much easier for me. It turned out I knew more about business than I thought I did by just learning through watching. I went to college and got a degree in agricultural engineering. I felt like a lot of people, farmers, are uneducated or even unintelligent. Well, personally, I think that is why some people believe that we would be easy targets to go after using my education. I actually started to make some changes to the farm to help things go a bit smoother. My father had been using the same old equipment, believing that if things were not broken, then you should not fix them. I was able to redesign our entire irrigation system so that it wasted less water and water the entire field of crops more effectively. The other thing I did was invest some money into changing our milking system with the cows. He was a firm believer about taking care of all the animals by hand. While I agree that some things are important to do by hand, machines can really help a lot. I want to make sure that this land is protected and prospers for a long time. While my brother does not want to work on the farm for physical reasons, he still helps with some financial stuff, and I can tell my nephews are very interested, and I hope that one day I can leave the farm in their good hands. I feel connected to this place, and without it I would be totally lost, not just from the income but more almost spiritually. My family on the land since the 1800s, and not having it would just make me feel like I had a hole in my heart. I would not give this place up willingly, but I had a run-in that I almost caused me to lose it for good. I guess I need to mention that the land here is not all farms and open land like it used to be 200 years ago when my family got it. Some of the area has changed to be more residential in a way that is good for me because less local competition and stores and other places being a lot more convenient for me to get to. Well, the disadvantage is that the neighborhood around here seems to be a little bit on the bougie side, and that does not always fit. With a huge farm, they got an HOA, and even before I met her, I had heard that this HOA Karen was a total hot ass. She used to work in real estate, and rumors say that she used some pretty nasty tactics to get her clients to home or force a price hike. Not the kind of woman that follows the golden rule, if you know what I mean. I heard the rest of the board under her is not much better, and despite how much interaction I had with her, I had very little with them. The fact that they seem to back her up is enough for me to assume they are just as nasty as she is. I also heard that the HOA president was just meant to be a bit of a stepping stone for her, basically to get her name out there to everybody before she decided to run for a higher and actual political position. And by the way, guys, I'm curious if that ever happened before, that someone basically was a tyrannical HOA president and then ran for public office. That is definitely an interesting career. Anyway, what I will say for now is that she certainly knows how to act like some of the more sketchy people in that field. Even before I met her, I knew that she had an issue with the farm people around here talk, and honestly, I figured that it was just a lot of talk and complaining. She did not mention any exact plans at the time, but just felt like complaining about the farm, making the entire place look lost to time, talking about how without it, how many more homes could be built and things like that. Obviously, the idea of tearing down burial plots dating back over 200 years did not even cross her mind. There's one word that I thought of this woman before I even met her, and that was greed. Things went downhill as her talk of hating the farm started to move towards what she was wanting to do with the land, making it seem like she was talking about far in the future at first. Maybe thinking I was the last of the family that would run it anyway. Well, as months went on though, I knew that something bad was brewing based on what I was being told she was saying regarding my property. A lot of the talk was about her spouting that the area needed to be cleaned up and the area's property value to increase, making notes like before about my farm just lowering the value of the other homes in the area. As if a farm is some contagion that spreads. It's been the same 200 acres the entire time though, and I don't think the fences were getting any ideas about moving themselves magically. Trust me, if I had magic I would be doing a lot better things with it, like making certain animal messes vanish on their own. The one part that was starting to actually scare me though was that she was apparently promising potential investors that she was going to build some giant luxury properties and that they were going to have an entire 200 acres of land to work with. There is no other open land around, so it was clear she was talking about my own farm but did not have the guts to just come out and say so yet. While I was waiting for this entire thing to sort itself out, summer was coming in fast, and that just seemed to lead to an entirely new host of problems I knew that I had to make big sales with my crops and animals, since farms like mine don't do as well as they used past. That's part of the reason these areas are becoming more suburban. And there's that huge transition. I like the fact that my country is doing well financially, and people have money to be able to go out and buy homes and have a family. I just wish that the change in the farming industry did not have to be so negative compared to independent. Farms have been struggling more all over the world, and I knew that I had faith that if I kept improving things and making small changes, I could stay afloat. I was not in the negative or anything. I just knew these investors had a lot more money. Than it also caused another fight with the HOA, and them trying to use something against me during the summer. Here are some water conservation restrictions. People in the HOA get upset because it means they cannot water their lawns and keep them as perfect as they want. To my farm, though, is not forced into those same restrictions. Since it's not really a residence, it also happens to be the best harvest season for me, so I'm able to conserve some water. It just didn't seem to be enough to make the HOA not think I was out here breaking rules and doing whatever I wanted. I am planning on spending summer harvesting crops, selling what I could, and doing some preserving of things so they could keep longer. I sell those at farmers markets, and people did like the fact that they could get some local pickled veggies or even jams from me. Locals were really the best small-scale market I had, and if the HOA turned them against me, I could end up in a lot of trouble. The last thing I want to mention is that the record system here is not the best. That's the main reason. I was worried ahead of time if the HOA Karen was going to try and pull something on me at some point. They started to keep better records of property transfers and put those into the computer at the deeds office. Well, since my farm was way before that and never had a solid transfer, I knew the records might not exist anymore. Combine that with the fact that a lot of the property lines had been rewritten to change from farms to residential, which just made the entire thing more complicated. So basically, I want to ask for some advice on what to do, because I'm a little scared the HOA is about to do something. I can almost feel it inside of me that something is going to happen. If it doesn't, and this is my only post, I'll be happy, but I have a feeling that I'll be back soon because of them. And then someone in the comments said, "Holy crap, this age lady sounds like a nightmare." Listen, as someone who's dealt with power-hungry HOA presidents before, you need to get ahead of the situation ASAP. First thing, secure your property records. Even if the computerized records are spotty, there should be a paper deed somewhere in the deeds office. Archives, hire a property lawyer who specializes in agricultural land. Yesterday, the fact that this HOA president is already talking to investors about your 200 acres is a massive red flag. Second, document everything, any interactions with her or the HOA board. Take notes with dates and times. If legal in South Africa, record the conversations too. Save any letters or notices they sent to you. The water usage thing is just her fishing for every violation. Your farm is likely zoned agricultural and not residential, so the HOA probably has zero jurisdiction over your property. But verify this with your lawyer. Don't let this woman intimidate you. You've got generations of history and legal ownership on your side. Stand your ground, but do it with proper legal backing. Good luck, and please update us. And yeah, guys, if you would be in this situation and had to go against an HOA, potentially at least, while having a farm property that dates back hundreds of years, what would you do in this situation? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoy the HOA farmer stories, please don't forget to subscribe. This situation is all too familiar, and you're right to be concerned. But don't panic just yet. First off, HOAs typically only have jurisdiction over properties that are specifically part of their covenant. If your farm predates the residential development, which it clearly does by like 150 plus years, there's almost no way that your property is subject to their rules unless someone in your family explicitly agreed to join the HOA. At some point, the fact that she's talking to investors about your land when she has no ownership of it could potentially be fraud. Document everything she does and says. By the way, props on the irrigation redesign and modernizing the milking system. That kind of adaptation is exactly why family farms survive. Stay strong and don't let them bully you. Your land is not theirs to take. And now, guys, we have an update to the story, and actually it's one of many, so please watch until the end to get the entire story. Well, guys, it's me again, and it turns out I was right that the HOA was planning something big. I just did not expect it to explode the way that it did. Also, thanks to the comments letting me know that I was not being paranoid and was justified in worrying about this HOA. So it only took a week into the real heat of summer and a day after I started harvesting that I got a notice from the HOA. I had a few of these from them before, mostly complaining about my water usage or my animals causing a smell like I said before though. I was allowed to water my crops, and I honestly cannot help that animals go to the bathroom, well, figuratively. I guess I clean it up, but I mean farms can smell sometimes. Part of life this notice though was not about any of that, and instead want to inform me that they had completed the sale of 75 acres of land of my land to a luxury developer. I think it went on to talk about the new homes that would be built and praising all of them, but I was not paying that part of the notice much attention. Instead, I was focused on the part where it showed a map of where the 75 acres were, and it was all on my property. It was like they took a chunk of my land, if you can call nearly half my farm a chunk, and then sold it. I expected it about what kind of cut they were giving me, even though it wouldn't have made me any less angry. I don't think I could have gotten more angry that point. The more that I kept reading, they were demanding that I remove anything within area of previous public space, or the developer had the right to destroy during construction this part of my land. Has a barn, a horse stable, and a ton of crops that were just about ready for harvest. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now I'm just extremely thankful that my family's graves were not on that area. You cannot just move these things, and to make it worse, she was claiming that they were going to be starting within the week, so I really had to get started moving things. It went on more about if I didn't comply that potential fines could be given or even legal action taken against me. I think I was so red in the face and steaming that I couldn't even think clearly at that point. I had zero clue in this situation what to do or even who to call. I did not open my mail until it was night, so no kind of offices were open. The best I could do was call my brother and have him try to calm me down a bit. He told me that we would get things sorted out and that he would always look for and find me a good lawyer that specialized in things like farms and property theft. Another good suggestion from a comment in my first post. Actually, sometimes it can be really nice to have an older sibling that can not only have your back but be a person to calm me down. I was able to at least get some sleep and figured that I had a few days and would be able to figure things out. A few days was not the case though, as at 5 a.m. when I always get up, I already saw that there were some construction trucks and people setting up barriers to section off the area that the HOA supposedly sold. And just to clarify, here apparently that is the section on OP's land, the private land that the HOA apparently sold without OP's permission. Anyway, the fans was already gone at that point, and I was a mixture of a million emotions. I had staff that were arriving around that same time, totally confused as to what was going on, and I had to try and explain it to them quickly as I wanted to go and speak to the crew as soon as possible. Mainly I told them that I would handle things and to just do what they normally do, but avoid that area of the farm until after I spoke to these people. At the very least, I knew I was going to need to be let in because of their animals, not to mention that I had a lot of crops, and without harvesting those and selling them, I would end up losing so much money. I would be in the negative. One of the machines they had was clearly a bulldozer that could cut through and destroy that entire area of crops, ruining them and everything. I quickly sent a text to my brother, telling him what was going on and that I needed that lawyer to get over here as soon as possible. I also told him that if they were going to be starting construction today, that I was going to need to get in there and at least salvage some of the crops that were almost ready for harvest, and that I needed to get the animals out of there as well. I also asked him to call the local sheriff department and see if they could come out to mediate things. I know that they are not the police, but they are definitely a higher authority than the HOA, and that might be enough to get them to slow down a bit and give me some time to get things sorted out. I was still in shock, but I knew that I needed to be strong for my staff and my farm. I walked up to the guy that seemed to be in charge and asked him what was going on and if he had any paperwork or anything that showed he was allowed to be on my property. I was trying to stay calm, but I could feel my heart racing and my anger building up. He just showed me the notice that the HOA had given them and said that they were just doing their job. I told him that this notice was not valid because the HOA had no right to sell my land and that I would not let them start construction until this was resolved. I was firm but polite, trying not to escalate the situation further. The construction worker just shook his head and said that he had his orders and that they were going to start working regardless of what I said. I knew that I had to act fast to protect my farm and my livelihood. I called my brother again and asked him if he had any update on the lawyer and the sheriff department. He told me that the lawyer was on his way and that the sheriff department was sending someone over to mediate the situation. I felt a bit of relief knowing that help was on the way, but I knew that I just hoped that it wouldn't be too late and that my farm wouldn't be destroyed. In the meantime, the construction workers were getting ready to start their machines, and I knew that I had to act fast to prevent any further damage to my property. I stood my ground and told the workers to stop until the situation was resolved, but they just laughed and said that they had their orders from the HOA. I was getting more and more frustrated by the minute, and I knew that I had to find a way to stop this before it was too late. And then I saw a car pulling up to the farm. It was my lawyer. Thank God he got here fast. I thought to myself, maybe now things can get sorted out and I can finally get some answers. The lawyer got out of the car and quickly assessed the situation. He looked at the construction workers and then at me and said, "Let's take care of this right now." He walked up to the construction workers and demanded that they stop work immediately, citing that the HOA had no authority to sell the land and that this was a clear case of trespassing. The workers looked unsure, but they eventually stopped and called their supervisor to confirm what to do. The lawyer then turned to me and said, "Don't worry, we've got this under control. I'll make sure that these workers are off your property in no time." I felt a wave of relief wash over me, knowing that I had someone on my side who knew what they were doing. The sheriff's department arrived shortly after, and they were able to further reinforce the lawyer's demands. The construction workers were forced to leave the property and the situation was finally under control. But I knew that this was far from over. The HOA and the developer were not going to give up easily, and I was going to have to fight to protect my farm. The lawyer told me that we would need to go to court to resolve this issue once and for all, and that it would likely take some time, but he was confident that we would win the case. I felt a sense of determination wash over me. I was ready to fight for my farm and my family's legacy. I knew that it wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to do whatever it took to protect what was rightfully mine. And now guys, we have an update to the story, and actually, it's one of many, so please watch until the end to get the entire story. Well guys, it's been a few weeks since the construction workers were forced to leave my property, and I'm happy to report that my farm is still intact. The lawyer has been working tirelessly to prepare our case, and we're getting ready to head to court. I'm nervous, but I'm also feeling more confident than ever that we'll come out on top. The HOA and the developer have been trying to intimidate me and my staff, but we're not backing down. We're determined to protect my farm and my family's legacy at all costs. The court date is approaching quickly, and I'm getting ready to face the HOA and the developer in court. I'm not sure what to expect, but I'm ready to fight for what's rightfully mine. I know that this won't be an easy battle, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect my farm and my family's future. And then someone in the comments said, "You're not alone in this fight there. See someone like you standing up for what's rightfully yours. Keep fighting and don't let them push you around. You've got this, and your farm is worth fighting for." Also, I just wanted to say that I'm loving the updates on this story. It's been really entertaining to follow along and see how things play out. Good luck in the court, and I hope you come out on top. And yeah guys, if you would be in this situation and had to go to court to protect your farm, what would you do? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy the HOA farmer stories, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads, and like the video to help me with the YouTube algorithm. Now let's get back to the story. The day of the court hearing finally arrived, and I was feeling a mix of emotions. I was nervous but also determined to protect my farm. The lawyer and I arrived at the courthouse and were greeted by the HOA and the developer. They looked confident, but I wasn't intimidated. I knew that I had the law on my side and that my farm was worth fighting for. The judge listened to both sides and then rendered his verdict in my favor. The HOA had no authority to sell my land, and the developer had no right to start construction. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, knowing that my farm was finally safe. I thanked the lawyer for his hard work and dedication, and I knew that I had made the right decision in fighting for my farm. And now guys, we have a final update to the story. Well guys, it's been a long and difficult journey, but I'm happy to report that my farm is finally safe. The HOA and the developer have given up their plans to develop my land, and I'm free to continue farming and living my life as I see fit. I'm grateful for the support of my family and friends, and I'm thankful for the lawyer who helped me navigate the legal system. I know that I'll always have to be vigilant and protect my farm from those who would seek to take it away from me, but I'm ready for whatever comes next. I hope that my story has been entertaining and informative, and that it's given you a glimpse into the world of farming and the challenges that farmers face. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.